Hello my friends and welcome. And yes, I know about so-called drone attack on Putin. We're gonna speak about it a little later. Now let's zoom in to the frontline updates because I guess it is even more interesting because it shows the scale of the Russian losses just in this small direction of Dobropilya, where the OSINT analytics calculated all of those Russian tanks, BMPs and other types of the transport that was kaputted for the last several months, and the number is just shocking. I'm gonna move my image a little lower for you to see the numbers and everything. This rectangular is the territory where Russia lost since August till the end of the year, so just several months, 4 months, a little bit less even. Destroyed 93 tanks, 259 infantry carrying vehicles or personnel carrying vehicles, 314 guns, it means mortars, artillery and the rest of the guns, it doesn't mean rifles or something like that, and 1,821 light vehicles, motorcycles, quadricycles and so on. Do not ask me if the horses and donkeys are also in these statistics. I have no clue, but that is what the first Azov Corps report, and they have all of the geolocations confirmed by the drone operations. Just imagine how many drones Ukraine is using to kaput everything of that. I remember how in November, just for a single attack towards Shahova, Russia lost more than 70 of the vehicles combined, and just recently they tried more of the attacks with their convoys. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 vehicles, doesn't matter, they just go and go. And if we say about vehicles here, just imagine infantry losses for Russian army. It is crazy what is happening. Nevertheless, they continue sometimes to even gain the ground. And today in the same direction Russians went with the same attack or similar one where they landed with their personal carrying vehicles. Probably those are MTLBs. Hunger type of the MTLBs, 2 of them were stopped, annihilated together with infantry personnel. Well, also in the same direction we have the report from the 33rd Mechanized Brigade. They show their drone operation here on quadricycles, you may call them all-terrain vehicles sometimes. Those are the names China made. China supplies those massively to Russia. During the winter time, Russians move like that. The plus for them in those all-terrain vehicles, I mean for Russians, that they may carry more of the equipment and they may travel by 2-3 persons per vehicle. Unlike on motorcycles, just a single soldier with kind of the light gear. But here is more or less advantage, especially during the winter time, bad weather conditions. As for the motorcycle in those conditions, it depends on rider's skills. I would travel in this weather on enduro bike because I used to ride enduro bikes, but the average Russian soldier, no, they're not bikers, riders or enduro skilled persons at all. Usually they're alcoholics who go and put some flags in a better perspective, and only after that they kaput. And again, the Russian commanders, they have a very poor understanding of what is happening out there on the front lines. They send, for example, this all-terrain convoy, and they reach this destroyed bridge. They even attempt to ride over it. You can see this all-terrain vehicle is stuck in this hole, but the rest were not that successful. So what they did, they just stopped here. They went exposed for Ukrainian surveillance drones, and our guys just finished the job kaputting this convoy of quad bikes. Russians just left their vehicles. They went to the local tree lines, to the fields, but later on they were also kaputted. You see, they may carry lots of the cargo here. I wonder why this one was empty. Maybe Russians took everything with them and disappeared. But the tree lines cannot hide Russians, especially when there is a snow and no leaves on the trees. The tree line could be an obstacle for FPV drones, but not for the drone drops. Well, lately I also see that Ukraine started to lose some of the vehicles, especially in Zaporizhia direction. There was even some sort of the Ukrainian attack attempt towards the Russian positions in Rivnopilya. The information about it was spread by our analytics. Probably 1 tank and 1 BMP, they were stopped by Russians here. But judging on the video, I saw it fully. There were no life losses among Ukrainian soldiers, so here is the video. We may look at it like that. So there was the tank in the back, and this is the infantry vehicle, maybe BMP. Oh no, this is the tank. This is the tank. It was hit and the armored vehicle was in the back. Yeah, Russians also controlled the area with the help of their drones. And it's very snowy recently in Ukraine, right? So in Zaporizhia direction, definitely Russians, they have this advantage over Ukrainian armed forces. And Russia doesn't want to break even. They don't want to ceasefire, it's already understandable. Even the General Kuzovlev appeared for the first time in public. There was the meeting, again, Putin and his generals, the defense minister, Gerasimov is here, and the General Kuzovlev is over here. And you know what Putin said about Kupiansk? To this general in particular, he said that we see how enemy tries to take initiative in Kupiansk. They try to break into the city. Well, the city is already lost for Russians. There's the catastrophe for the Russian army. And their bridgehead across the Oskil River, they will not be able to gain the same advantage in Kupiansk over Ukraine for a very extensive period of time. Well, maybe the next year they'll try to gain some of the more forces to get settlement under their control, but I don't honestly think so. I think that Russia wants to split their forces and already split, in Zaporizhia, in Donbass, and to attack massively in Kupiansk. Even for the Russian army in its current state, it's too much. Again, Putin said that we're gonna reach our goals of special military operation. We're gonna attack towards Zaporizhia, he mentioned. Yes, probably Zaporizhia is one of the main goals for Russia the next year, and Russia wants to attack even during the winter time. Then it's kind of complicated to advance. General Teplinsky says that the Russian army is 15 kilometers away from the southern outskirts of Zaporizhia, and Putin ordered him to continue the offensive, to occupy this very important city. Well, I guess we need to go to the deep state to clarify everything of that. Usually I choose the satellite images, and the outskirts, I would say maybe this crossroad somewhere here, and this gray zone. Actually, Russia recently advanced here. I admit it, Primorsk, some of the small infiltration attacks, they were happening for the last months, and maybe there is 15 kilometers. Let's measure, maybe even less if we take the gray zone. No, they're right, 15 kilometers, but there is one but. There are multiple of the Ukrainian defense lines, and the river. This one, Kinska River over here, it's not a narrow one, so Russians would need engineering equipment to cross it. It's not as easy as Putin thinks. There are some of the bridges, but Ukraine may easily kaboom them if required. But again, it's just a gray zone. Russians cannot even take Stepnogorsk fully to determine it as their bridgehead for the further attacks. And today Putin signed the decree of the compulsory service of the Russian men in the Russian army for the next year. Totally they want to hire or drag to army 261,000 new soldiers. Those are conscripts, usually young, and they're not being sent directly to the front lines. For example, they were responsible for security of the Kursk border, but even there they took the part in a special military operation that Putin started against Ukraine. Nevertheless, after their compulsory service of 1 year is over, Russian generals and the Russian commanders are seeking to drag them more, to force them to sign contracts with the Russian army, and after it, they've been sent to the front lines. And Russia is pretty much successful with that. According to the information published by the Russian opposition sources, roughly half of the Russian conscripts, after all, stay in the Russian army for contract service. So in our case, if we divide this number in two, roughly 130,000 Russian soldiers could be taken for full service in the military zone, Ukraine, basically. Plus on top, Russia adds service members who are coming as mercenaries to fight for Russia. Also, Russian volunteers, still it's the main part of all of those Russian soldiers who are now being mostly flatlined on the front lines. Also, there are some of the Russian prisoners. So Russia still has this resource. And also for the next year, Putin released the decree of the compulsory military drills among those Russian reserve servicemen. But those are most of the Russian men, actually, reservists. All of that tells that Putin is not willing to stop absolutely. Alright, now about this new fairy tale coming from Russians. They proclaim that Ukraine launched the long-range drones directly to the Putin's residency in Nizhny Novgorod by the time Putin was there. And they say it was the assassination attempt from Ukraine. Luckily, all of the drones were shut down and poor Putin didn't sustain any sort of the injuries. This afternoon, Lavrov said about it, also Ushakov. Moreover, Putin complained to Trump this morning. It was morning in the United States and daytime in Russia. So Putin told that he was attacked, he complained a lot. And according to Ushakov, and I believe that it was definitely like that, Trump was really disappointed. Trump said that, oh, it's a good thing that we haven't supplied Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. He also called the action of Zelensky's complete craziness. And he complained also to Putin that, oh, it's something bad happening to Zelensky, and they will revise how they communicate with the Ukrainian side. Simply, Trump failed into this trap easily, very easily. Those Russian ex-KGB and current FSB elite, they're not even trying to play Donald Trump. Donald Trump just likes that, to be played by Putin. During the meeting with Netanyahu, Trump was asked about those allegedly strikes on Russia, and here's his response.
No, I don't know about it, actually, and I just heard about it, actually, but I don't know about it.
He said initially, I don't know about it, about those strikes, I have just heard about those, but later on he finally admitted that he was speaking with Putin directly about those strikes.
I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
I heard about it from President Putin, I was angry about it. So he confirms that he was angry. Oh, poor Putin. For Putin, it's okay to target Ukrainian civilians, demolish Ukrainian cities. They simply wipe out everything in Ukraine. And, oh, poor Putin, you cannot strike him. And the thing that Zelensky said it already, that it's just a pure speculation from the Russian side. Ukraine never ever attempted any sort of the action, physical action against Putin yet. I guess Zelensky understands that it could undermine something, those negotiations. And after all, it's very hard to eliminate the guy because he has special services working for him, responsible especially for the security of the Russian leader. So it's almost impossible to make this thing works. And Zelensky noted that our allies, they should ask their intelligence services about whether Ukraine performed that attack or not. Confirm, cross-check, Zelensky calls for it. Do not trust Putin's calls, but Trump trusts Putin more than his own intelligence. And here the journalist asked him about the intelligence services. Maybe it's better to cross-check with your intelligence, Donald Trump.
Well, it came out, well, we'll find out. I mean, you're saying maybe the attack didn't take place. It's possible too, I guess, but President Putin told me this morning it did.
So, maybe it didn't happen, I guess, but President Putin told me. Putin told me. It cannot be lies. You know, Putin never lies, according to Donald Trump. But that's exactly what Putin does every time. Each time he lies about absolutely everything. But at the same, in parallel, Putin is very honest with his intentions that he proclaims, that he wants to occupy Ukraine, that the Ukrainians are not Ukrainians, they're brainwashed Russians and stuff like that. And there are already memes in internet about it, daily intelligence reports from the entire United States intelligence community. No. Phone call from Putin? Yes. Who would have thought that it's so easy to play Donald Trump? It's so easy, but not for normal people, not for Zelensky. Donald Trump respects those dictators like Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un. He thinks that those are the true leaders. Zelensky, he's just a puppet, you know. We can tell him what to do, but it seems like it doesn't work. They told Zelensky to give up Donbass and everything, and Zelensky says, no, maybe a referendum. Speak with Putin, maybe he will apply some of the ceasefire for 60 days. But no, Putin is not willing to do it, because he understands that the Ukrainians will never vote for capitulation. And yes, actually Donald Trump is correct, and he says that majority of Ukrainians, like 90%, they want this war to over. It's logical. Ukrainians don't want this war to continue. But at the same time, Ukrainians, they do not support capitulation of Ukraine. Also the same percentage, I would say. Yeah, Lavrov mentions that 91 drones, here they say 100 drones, but actually 91 drones, he stated, they entered the airspace, Russian airspace, and were very close to the Putin's residency, and luckily Russian air defense shut down absolutely everything, and Russians could say every time, like Ukrainian drones, long-range drones, if they cross Ukrainian border into Russia, Russians may proclaim, oh, this is the threat for our president, Vladimir Putin. And the very important thing that Putin said today to Donald Trump during their phone conversation, and this information was told by Ushakov, again Putin's advisor, that Russia will revise the peace plan and negotiations with the United States of America about Ukraine. Ushakov mentions that Kiev regime is creating substantial threats for Russia, and they will change their policy, whatever it means, but I guess Russians will openly tell once again to Donald Trump that they're not willing to ceasefire. That's it. Yeah, the situation with so-called attack on Putin, it just tells that for Trump, Putin is something special. Definitely. And he is not a villain, he is not an aggressor, he is not almost a second Hitler who started the biggest war in Europe since the Second World War. And I guess in the entire world, yeah, since the Second World War, it is the biggest conflict, the largest military escalation, war, with the use of aviation, artillery, tanks, absolutely everything. But for Trump, it's okay. You know, Ukraine cannot hit Putin. Trump is sad about it. Trump is angry about it because he loves Putin. That's the only explanation, I guess. Plus, Zelensky says that Russia will use this hoax about alleged attack on Putin's residency to strike Ukrainian important infrastructure and also decision-making points, maybe even parliament building or the building of the president's office. Russians now may do it, and they could use the alleged attack on their president as the excuse to attack Ukraine even more, to escalate and to target what they hesitated to target before. And it's not a place for peace agreement any longer if Russian state would do it. I mean, those attacks on Zelensky, because how can you communicate, cooperate, or to have some of the conclusion with Russians if they strike directly on parliament or president? And Zelensky says that it's going to be like that. Why Russians are always whispering? Then they film those circle videos on their phones. There was an attack on Syzran refinery. That is what happened the last night and the night before. There was the fire, some of the kabooms. It's usual special military operation that is happening on territory of Russia. Yeah, definitely some of the drone strikes in Syzran. Syzran is the big refinery in Russia. Well, guys, it's all what I want to say for today. You may support this channel, follow me on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below. Or you may support me on membership of the channel, pressing the button join if you watch me on YouTube. If on Spotify, just subscribe for the channel. And as usual, like this video. Thank you guys a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.